Hi, welcome to Ian Wallace, the messed up counsellor. We're all dysfunctional, I think, so hopefully everybody watching is also dysfunctional. Today, what I look at is when we talk, we say things. I can wake up in the morning and I can say, "Oh, I feel crap, I feel dreadful." And I might say that, and the person I'm talking to might have a different idea or thought of what crap, dreadful looks like. So when we talk, we don't necessarily tell people something they can understand. So when we explore things with people, we use language, naturally, communication. But when we say things like, I feel crap, then my idea of crap and their idea of crap is going to be different. So when we talk, we should think about how we say the things we say. So I might say, right, I feel crap this morning. I feel dreadful. And then I might say, well, actually, because I've got a headache. Now, if I didn't give that piece of information, the person I'm talking to might feel that they had something to do with my feeling crap and dreadful. So then that process of misinformation starts making a difference in perception, reality, as I've said before in previous podcasts. That process of perception, reality means that whatever they see or think or understand from that word might normally come from a process that they believe that they have something to do with it. Because what we do as human beings, most of us, is we kind of take responsibility if we don't actually know what's being said. So if somebody doesn't say something to us, we in our heads think, must be us, must be something we've done. That's the first kind of process. And we do that for lots and lots of different reasons. Usually protect ourselves from rejection, usually. So when I say I feel crap, and then I kind of quantify that by saying I've got a headache this morning, then that piece of information is the most important. The I feel crap is, to an extent, an understanding, but I've got a headache this morning gives a realization as to why I feel crap. And we do this with language all the time. We say things, we explore things without really thinking about how the other person is interpreting it. So I'm 68 years old. So when I get up in the morning, as most people who are over 60 will say, is that something different hurts every morning. You wake up with that. That didn't hurt yesterday. Where did that come from? I think somebody in the middle of the night comes along with a hammer and starts tapping our legs and arms and stuff. It's not true, honest. But as we're doing that process and we're waking up and we're trying to realise where our world is, then our first kind of thought usually will go to how we feel, naturally. It won't necessarily go to what we're going to do today first. So that process of I feel crap because I've got a headache means that the other person we're engaging with will understand exactly what we're talking about. And they may then want to help us with the headache. They might say, oh, can I get you a tablet? Oh, do I need to give you a massage? Is there something I can do for you? That little piece of language, I've got a headache, means that we might get help. We might get a connection whereby they, the person we're working with, talking to, can share that process and understand, A, they're not to blame, it's not them. And the second is there is some kind of solution that could offer. What that does with communication and language is instead of the first, I feel crap, kind of separates people, creates distance. I feel crap, I've got a headache, brings people together. So when we talk, we really need to be much more aware of our language and check things out and kind of work with that process. Now, everybody will feel different every morning, obviously. So it might not be I feel crap, dreadful. It might be something about, oh, I've had a terrible day. Then somebody's idea of what a terrible day is and your idea of a terrible day is will not be the same, obviously. So we have to explore that, what a terrible day means, because that first piece of information doesn't necessarily give anybody any understanding. So when we're engaging with people, whoever they might be, friends, family, work colleagues, whoever, then we need to have a more comprehensive piece of language that goes with those statements. And then what you'll find is people will start understanding you more, which is obviously helpful, but they'll also want to help more. And it brings people together. When I'm working with people in the counselling room, I find this an awful lot, that the piece of information that's been given in the room between two people isn't necessarily creating a process of communication. We think we're talking, we think we're saying something, but actually we're not fully saying something, we're only part saying something. So that person in the room might need somebody like me, counsellor, therapist, to be kind of the interpreter, the kind of person that says, well, actually, did that mean that, or did it mean something else? And start deconstructing that language, that process. Most people want to communicate. Most people want to connect. But they kind of find it hard if they don't understand and if they don't have an idea of where you are. That kind of taking responsibility, it must be my fault, you feel crap, kind of creates that distancing process with us, and that's not helpful. We need to be much more aware of what we say and how we say what we say, because that then will create a better structure of communication. And with communication, the world works. With no communication, it doesn't. There's a very old story of, I think it was the American Space Agency, years and years and years ago. And they were producing some kind of rocket or something. And they asked the people in Europe to supply some of the components. Now in America, they work with feet and inches. In Europe, they work with centimetres and metres. And it's not surprising that when the thing was delivered, it didn't fit. Because they're working with two different types of scales. And so the communication didn't work because that small piece of information, what are you supplying this in? Centimetres, metres, we're talking inches, feet. And so that kind of process of communication meant that something which should have worked didn't, because nobody had checked that out. Now, hopefully these days they've learned from that process and we don't have that problem. But it's just a kind of a way of exploring that and explaining it, that that little piece of information that comes through is mostly important. The first piece, generally speaking, isn't. So as you move through your world and your lives with these people that you live with, you relate to, then just be a bit more mindful. And the easiest way to do that is, if you forget, ask the other person if they've understood. Do a kind of a check out with them. So if you say, I feel crap, then you might say, do you understand what that means? And they say, well, I don't understand what it means for you. For me, it means X, Y, Z. So that process of checking out would be all you might need to do. But as you're working with your relationships, your friendships, your communication, explore those ideas, explore those understandings. And then, hopefully, you'll communicate more effectively. And you'll get people who want to help, and want to help you out. It's surprising how many times people see people they don't even know, maybe people on a bus, on a train, on the street, people who are kind of looking for help and support. And we don't necessarily have that conversation. We don't have that communication because we make an instant kind of understanding of what that person is or was or needs or whatever. And we then get it wrong, or we don't connect to them at all. So that process of our perception, as I've said in previous podcasts, is our reality. We need to check those things out with people. We need to see whether or not they would feel able to have a conversation with us. And we can start a conversation very easily. How are you? What kind of a day are you having? where you're going. Those kind of small sentences would start a conversation up for most people. Okay, some people might not want to communicate and they might want to keep themselves to themselves. That's fine. But if they didn't, then those kind of introductions can help people feel connected. And there's a lot of people in the world, certainly at the moment, feel disconnected. By conversation, we can connect, but we have to be able to talk, and we have to be able to talk effectively with good communication. So think about it today as you watch this. Think about how you're connecting with people, what your communication structure is. And if you're trying to say something important, then don't rush it. If the person isn't able to take it on board at that particular moment, then okay, allow it to kind of wait for another time during the day. Say, can I have a word with you a bit later? Can I have a word with you tonight? Whenever. If it's an important process, don't rush it. If you're really trying to explore your feelings, your emotions, you can't do that in a couple of seconds. You need to have that time to explore it with another person. Problem with most of us, busy lives, too much to do, not enough time to do it. 24 hours in a day, can't become 36. So we kind of don't necessarily have that process of talking. And when we're looking at these things and exploring these things, these ideas of being different, once you get used to doing something different, then you pretty much probably take it on board without even thinking. But if we're feeling as though we're not able to communicate for whatever reason, then that's only going to make things worse. Talking is everything. In my world, in your world, in everybody's world. Without talking, we have no idea what's going on. We just use our perception, which then becomes our reality, and then you're in a whole different ballgame. So when you're working with somebody, when you're talking to somebody, when you're sharing something with somebody, just be mindful that I feel crap doesn't necessarily give the full picture and will, generally speaking, distance yourself from that person. So I feel crap because I've got a headache this morning. Much, much better process. Hopefully that makes sense for this very short podcast today. But it's a very enormously important thing to think about. To think about what you say and how you say what you say. And then, hopefully, you'll get it right. And if you get it right, then hopefully people understand you more. And if people understand you more, then hopefully you'll have a better relationship and a better connection. My name's Ian Wallace. I'm the Messed Up Counsellor. If you've liked this and it's been interesting, hopefully, then please share it. You never know if somebody you know might need it. Take care.